like I said, it happens, and hopefully some kids can learn from it, but just don't get caught.
I'm down to dunk.
And I'm down to dunk. I'm down to dunk. This is J-Dub, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lindy Waters, and I'm down to dunk. I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Jay Will, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Kenneth Williams, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to dunk.
We say this is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
This is Lou Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
Cracklin Oat Bran.
Have you had Cracklin Oat Bran?
No,
No. Okay.
but it's healthy.
You a big oat brand guy?
I'm a big Oat Bran guy.
Okay.
I think I would switch it with Fruity Pebbles.
Okay, eat faster. Don't put as much in the bowl.
You have a gallon of milk I can also take home.
You don't have milk at home?
One cinnamon toast.
Okay.
Yeah. Cereal is great. Yeah.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. With me, as always, on Wednesdays is my good friend, Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
What's up?
I was trying to eat an entire breakfast sandwich before, during the intro.
You got it done.
I don't know if you could watch me on my little mini screen below.
You did kind of have a gravelly voice there at the end, though.
Oh, man. I still haven't finished it. But I really tried.
Come back up. It's going to come back up.
I really tried. Oh, boy. September 20th. We are so close to training camp, which opens October 2nd. Obviously, Down to Dunk will be there in full force, and we'll have some really fun, great content for you that day. So be sure to tune in. Be sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel so that you can see some exclusive Thunder content on the Down to Dunk YouTube page. Shout out to our friend Dane Carr, who's going to be there with me again. Shoot some video. Shout out to Big D. Should be a really great day. But yeah, NBA season's approaching. There's no real news out there. However, I did want to discuss a couple things that are being floated out there by some national people. One that I think is really easy to squash just right away is Chris Mannix said on a podcast that if the Thunder are doing really good, that they might trade for Damian Lillard this season, which is insane. It's just not. It's just I think it's inaccurate. What's funny to me is, hey, your young team is doing amazing. What should you do? Trade for an outrageously expensive old point guard who's still really good, but it makes no logical sense. To me, if the Thunder needed to trade for Dame, it'd be like, man, everything has gone off the rails. Nothing is going well. They need to salvage this somehow. Maybe trading for Dame would help. Not everything is going so well.
Not. Yeah, and also if you just try to make the money work, you're definitely losing Dort. Dort's gone. Dort has to be in it. You can do Bertans, so that gets you to 28. And do you know what Dame is making this year?
Not 28.
He's not. Where is he on this list? He is making 45. So I don't know how much more you would have to add, but obviously they're not. Let's imagine this is real for a second, just to humor me. So you would have to do those two guys, Bertans and Dort, and then obviously they would want some young guy because they seem to at least be able to get Tyler Hero, even though they don't really want him from the Heat, and that's a young guy who's puts up 17 points per game or whatever.
Yep.
So they'd probably want one of our young guys, and at that point, it's just no. It would if you just think about it for more than 2 seconds.
Jang?
Yeah, maybe that would be the cheapest you could do it. Would be Jang, Dort, Bertans, And then if Oladipo's still around, if you need more matching money.
And then you think about like how expensive this team is going to get whenever Giddey's up for an extension.
Yeah.
And J-Dub and Chet are up for extensions. And you still have Dame on this outrageous deal.
But yeah, because that's the thing about Dame. Like, he makes $63 million in 4 seasons.
In four. There's just, I mean,
The
it's
26-27 season.
I mean, it's just illogical. It's just illogical when you just think about the finances of it, let alone like the actual like team chemistry. Like, because Dame is not like
or the roster construction. Like,
yes,
if you're going to pick a young team, like, I don't know, you could probably get away with saying Orlando just because you're like, well, what if Anthony Black doesn't work out, and they have Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony. Like, I mean, at least that. I don't think Orlando would ever do that, but at least you can like kind of imagine Dame. It was like, okay, I could imagine Dame being a starting point guard for the Magic.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of OKC, it's like, so he's going to be the starting point guard with Shea, and then I guess Giddey's not there, but we're starting trading him. And
yeah, it's also the Thunder have this All-NBA first team guard that people are saying, hey, he's going to take another leap in this next year. And then you want to take the ball out of his hands more, because the ball will be out of his hands some because he plays with Giddey and J-Dub and Chet. You want to add Dame to that, who is not some spot up guy. I mean, there's just I cannot imagine a scenario where I think it would be a good idea. Would it make them better? Probably. But is it going to make them better in 3 years? It could make them worse in 3 years, because they probably can't keep everybody. And then Dame's going to be old, and you're not going to be able to trade him on that deal.
And good luck with our dreams of having a top 10 defense. I think that would be really challenging.
Exactly.
Because you're going to be getting smaller because you're pushing Shea to the 2, I guess, in this situation.
Yeah.
Because you can't have Dame be like guarding 2s.
Yeah.
So you're going to get smaller overall, and then Dame isn't a good defender.
Mm-hmm.
Just dumb, man.
It's just dumb. Yeah. Straight. It's a dumb idea.
And plus, there's like other Dame rumors out there right now that are better. Like I'm on Hoops Hype right now. I was looking up Dame's salary. It says Raptors kicking the tires on Dame. Sure.
Yeah, whatever. They have no direction. They have no direction.
Why not?
Give them a direction. Yeah, don't say the Thunder. And this is going to be a thing. Whenever any star becomes available, you know who could be a dark horse in the race to trade for blah blah blah. Yeah, the Thunder have lots of picks, and they have cap space, and they have all this, and some will make sense. I mean, honestly, if Giannis said, "Hey, you know what? One of my top 3 teams to go to is the Oklahoma City Thunder," and I would resign there, you better believe they would figure that one out. But not Dame.
Did you hear Zach Lowe talking about Giannis in Toronto?
I don't know if
it was very weird. He was telling a story about how when Giannis was on Serge Ibaka's cooking show, Serge like asked him if he would ever play for Toronto, and Zach was like, and he said no, but the way he said no felt like there was something more there. Like, what? He said no. He answered the question. He said no.
No. I mean, how did he say it? It's so weird. Why would you even use that as like a touch point?
I know, exactly. That was what was so strange to me. Like, why even bring that up?
That's really
not interesting at all.
That is really funny. I mean, at this point, like, if you want to talk about all these guys, you're kind of grasping at straws of like actual tangible things to say. So I guess you can go to Serge Ibaka's cooking show to talk about it.
I guess. Shout out to Serge. He's a Bayern Munich player now.
Oh, really?
Germany.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw some video of him getting introduced.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, great job, Serge.
Hope he does well.
The other topic does actually come from the Low Post podcast. where he and Kevin Pelton kind of break down some of the most interesting players going into the season, and one of them was Josh Giddey. And Kevin Pelton brought up the idea of Josh Giddey coming off the bench for the Thunder and being theoretically their sixth man, with the thought that the ball would be better in his hands more than if he was a starter. You have thoughts on that?
Okay, so on the one hand, I do continue to want to see some lineups where Josh is the undisputed, lead ball handler.
Yeah.
I do continue to want to see some of those just to see how it looks. The thing, though, was that last year when that happened, I did not. That wasn't where I thought Giddey was excelling.
Yeah.
Like
I
I thought he looked a lot better in kind of a secondary role. And so I get the idea of wanting to see more of Josh because you watch him this summer with Australia and you're like, oh, there's a lead ball handler right there. He kind of, if he doesn't need his own team, he certainly needs his own lineups to run. And I get that, but that just wasn't, that idea of Josh Giddey has not played out on the court in the way that I thought it would in the NBA yet. And I've liked him a lot more when he's playing with some of these other ball handlers. Yeah. So I don't know. Did Pelton give a reasoning or did he say who he would want him replaced with?
He basically, he didn't really give like a lineup of what that would look like. He just gave lineup data supporting that Shea is just better with just pure shooting around him.
And that's probably true. And I think that there's, you're going to have to find shooting from somewhere. I mean, obviously we talk about this all the time. Yeah. I think the hope is that you find it from guys like J-Dub taking a lot more threes. You find it from Chet being a stretch player, and you find it from Shea taking more threes. Please, Lord, he can be really good at it. And so I feel like a lot of that falls back onto Giddey and to Dort to some extent. But yeah, I just don't know. Like, I mean, Giddey, so I'm looking at PBP stats. Giddey and Shea on the court together was a minus 1.5. Giddey without Shea was a minus 4.
Mm-hmm.
SGA without Giddey was at plus 8.5.
Yeah.
Now, those are year-long stats. Almost all of them crossed 1,000 minutes. All of those combinations crossed 1,000 minutes. I get it. I just think it's so early in this process. Part of the deal with the Thunder right now is that they exceeded expectations by so much last year that we're now trying to like make these big decisions as quickly as possible. When the reality is we still probably have another year at least of tinkering where they're still going to be trying out a lot of different things, including with the top guys. And so maybe it does turn out in the future that Josh Giddey is a sixth man on this team or in the league in general. I just don't think that they're going to make that type of decision this year.
Yeah, and the thing I don't like about using those stats is that like these guys, as young as they are, aren't static. Like they're going to change a lot. Like these are the years where guys change so much. I mean, think about it. If you took Russell Westbrook after year 2, and we're just like, hey, the lineup data from year 2 of Russell Westbrook says this, it's like, I don't know. Russ probably isn't the point guard. We need to probably go trade for a point guard and put Russ off ball, or maybe Russ is the sixth man. I mean, you could go to all those places with him. We don't know what Josh Giddey is going to be. It's just too early to truly ask those questions. He hasn't even turned 21 yet.
Hey, would you like me to give you those stats? Because
I
actually have them.
Yeah.
So Russ's second year, Russ plus KD on the court plus 2.6. KD without Russ plus 13.3. Russ without KD minus 7.8. That was 2010, 2011, which I think was his second season.
Yeah. He was the 08 draft, 08, 09, 09. 09, 10 was his second year.
Wow, so that was his third season.
Yeah.
Those were the stats. Let me see if they were even worse the year before.
Yeah.
And obviously this is not a crap on Russ segment.
No,
we're just pointing out
this is a hey, these young guys can get a lot better. You're not guaranteed to get a lot better, but these guys that have already shown some kind of Josh Giddey's shown a lot of capabilities. 16-8-6 in your second year in the league, playing off ball and not a primary role is like that's really impressive. So I just think we have to remember that the Josh Giddey that we saw last year, we don't know what he's going to look like this year.
Eventually, by 2011, I'm trying to remember. Did something happen in 2011, 2012? They were both healthy. Yeah.
That was the year they went to the finals.
So that year they just decided, okay, we're not going to have Russ only lineups. He only played 75 minutes without Kevin Durant. And I mean, he played 66 games that year. So he played like a lot of minutes. He played 2,257 of his minutes with KD.
Wow.
So they finally were just, and that took till year 4 for them to make that decision. Where like, okay, these guys are best together. We're not going to go with these like Russ only lineups right now.
Yeah.
And they were probably giving those lineups to Harden by that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Harden. Yeah. Especially that 12 year.
But yeah, eventually you get into the realm when they like would never stagger them ever.
Yeah. Never. Yeah. Never ever. Yeah. Staggering we would have entire podcasts just about staggering.
I know. Meanwhile, there were the stats right there. That's why they weren't doing it.
Yep. That's why they weren't doing it. Yeah. Anyways, it's just too early to have the conversation about where Josh fits best because it's all projection. And some of the projection is based on the fact that people think he can't shoot, which is also, is it the most likely outcome is that he's somebody that teams don't close out hard to? Yes, it's the most likely outcome. Is it set in stone? No, we just don't know. He could become a really good shooter. And if he's that, then you absolutely would not want to separate him from the best players on the team.
Yeah.
And even if not, he learned how to play with SGA last year in a way that was really impressive. And it took some time, but he did it. And by the end of the season, you weren't sitting there thinking, man, they just need to take Giddey out of there. I just don't remember having those thoughts. And sometimes even with Russ, those first couple years, I remember sitting watching those games like, man, they got to get Russ out of there. Like they need to get Eric Maynor in there to just settle things down. I haven't had those thoughts about Giddey. I don't sit and watch Thunder games and just think, man, they got to get Giddey out of there. And some of it may be the fact that this Thunder team wasn't that deep last year and there wasn't a well of players to go to that you felt better about. And that may change. Like maybe Wallace is really good. Maybe we just don't know. So this year could look and feel differently, but I'm just saying that to this point, I've never thought, man, Giddey and Shea just doesn't work. They need to move these guys around. That's just not been within the thought process, especially down the stretch of the season.
Well, if you think about some of those bench lineups, that last year I didn't love when it was just Giddey and like no J-Dub, no Shea.
Yeah.
Now you potentially could have like Case and Wallace on the floor. You could have Mitchich on the floor.
Yeah.
Like there are more ball handlers available, and maybe those lineups off the bench will all of a sudden look better. So I still want to see those lineups. But like game 1, night 1, like Giddey is starting. Giddey's probably going to start the entire season. You can learn about that kind of stuff without like making him the sixth man. They play so many different lineups.
Yes, it's a big jump to take. And Giddey is obviously one of the best 4 players on this team. Where he is in that pecking order by the end of the season, I don't know. But he's clearly one of the best 4 players on the team. And you want to start your best players. So I just don't. I think it's an interesting conversation, but I just don't think it's time to have it yet. And especially with the summer that he had, he looked really good for Team Australia and looks like he could take another step forward. And I'm a big Giddey believer. I also think that Josh Giddey is the player that gets the Thunder into the style of play that they want to play better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So, also he shot 34% on catch and shoot threes, which is not like great, but it's certainly better than I would have expected. I would have probably expected around 30% because he was really bad. I think he was 24% his first season on catch and shoot threes, where it just felt like, oh boy, I don't know where this is headed. And that's just why you just can't jump to conclusions or make sweeping statements about Giddey or the Thunder, because we frankly just have so many unanswered questions.
I'm glad you brought up the Russ thing, because it is similar to the Russ thing in some ways when people were calling for Eric Maynard back in the day.
Yeah.
Where it's like we all knew that, even at the time, you knew that Eric Maynard didn't have as high of a ceiling as Russ, but you're a prisoner of the moment and you're like, I know this lineup would be better if Eric Maynard just played, just because he plays like a more calm style. And like, that's all this team needs right now. And that was probably true in the moment.
Yeah.
But by sacrificing those developmental minutes for Russ, like, what are you losing? You're losing the potential to develop a MVP caliber player who's
a Hall of Fame player.
Yeah, who's playing with like your main guy, which, like, if it was ever going to work, it was going to work because those two guys could play together. And so trying to manipulate the lineup data, and it's true. Like, yes, if you replace Giddey with Isaiah Joe, I bet those lineups would be better, like, overall this season. But what are you sacrificing by doing that? And how important is it really? Like, we're not expecting to win a championship this year. Like, it is way more important for us to find out if Giddey and Shea are going to work together long term in a really good way than it is for us to construct these absolute perfect 5-man lineups right now, which they can do, and we know they work in the same way that we knew they work when Mike Muscala was here.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that is where you get into this debate probably among fans who want to optimize everything right now when the average age of the player is like 23.8, which I just looked up on HispanosMBA.com. Versus,
shout out Hispanos NBA,
only place online where I can find age data.
It really is, and it is weird.
I go to it every year.
How can that be the only site that does that? Okay, continue.
And they also do like average height and weight, which I don't know why I would use those, but
it's kind of fun.
But yeah, it's trying to balance, or it's this like push and pull between the fan base, between those who want to optimize the team right now to try to win as many games as possible right now, versus we are still very early in the developmental process, not just with Giddey, but obviously with guys like Chet and with J-Dub. I mean, J-Dub's going into his second season. Chet is a rookie, and there's still so many things that they need to figure out, and kind of skewing all that just to optimize whatever 5-man lineup you can right now. It makes sense in a vacuum, like in the moment, if you're trying to get the highest net rating for a 5-man lineup. But I think long term, it makes way more sense to try to figure out with the players that you know have the highest ceiling on the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for this Thunder team, I think numbers like that are more descriptive than prescriptive. You know, like, it's not like, hey, here's what it's basically, hey, this is what this lineup does. Okay. You know, we'll keep trying other stuff. It's not like, hey, this is what this data says you need to do this now. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. I think later that will be the case, but they're just too young. And this team is just changing too much and is going to look a lot different this year than it did last year, even though the personnel is not all that different. It's going to look different just because these guys are growing and changing and becoming better players, or in some cases becoming players that, you know, we maybe over imagine what they could be and they don't hit that, like Trey Mann did last year. You know, those kind of things are going to happen both ways. And there's just too many unanswered questions. That's just what I keep telling people that ask about, like, oh, could they trade for this or do that? There's just too many unanswered questions with the roster itself to say that they need this or they need that. They don't know what they need yet. If Jang comes out and can play this year, well, that answers a lot of questions for them. You know, if he can't and he looks like he's regressed, then you have more questions. So I don't know. I think that's kind of just where the Thunder are at. Okay. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to do Eastern Conference over-unders. And we're back after that quick break. Al, let's do some over-unders before the NBA season. Let's talk about the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, for all you longtime listeners, whenever we get to over-unders, that means we have run out of ideas. And that is where we are. But hey, we made it all the way to September 20th.
That's
before we
pretty
ran
good.
out of ideas.
That
pretty
is
good.
pretty good because
That's
next
pretty
week we're doing bold predictions. So
Yeah.
that's where we're at in the life cycle of this podcast. And if you know, when you start hearing bold predictions from down to dunk, you know that the season is here.
So we're gonna do the Eastern Conference, and I know in the past we've only gotten through like 5 teams in a episode. We're gonna try to do all of them because some of these we've already talked about on a previous episode, where you and I have already made our opinions known. So I'm gonna go alphabetically, starting with the Atlanta Hawks, who last year were a 500 team. They're over under this year 41.5. So you basically just are picking them to win one more game than they won last year. They were the 9th ranked defense, jumped to the 4th ranked defense post All-Star break, which is somewhat related to their new coach, Quinn Snyder, who came in during last season. Key additions, Wes Matthews, Kobe Buffkin, Patty Mills. Key subtractions, and for this, I'm really just doing guys who played minutes or a past Thunder guy. John Collins, the Holiday Brothers, and Vit Krejci, no longer with the Atlanta Hawks. The record with Quinn Snyder, do you know what it was? They played 22 games.
I don't know.
11-11. Exactly. Also 500.
11.
11-11. I did think it was interesting, B-ball index on Twitter.
Yeah.
They come up with all these like unique metrics. They said that the spacing around Trae Young last year was the worst it's been in his career thus far. They have a little stat called off-ball teammate gravity, and last year it was an F, which I don't think of the Hawks as like a terrible spacing team in my head.
Yeah.
And even when I go through some of the players, you're like, oh, I mean, Bogdanovich, like he's good, obviously. John Collins traditionally was good. He was terrible last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had him ranked as his worst spacing season for him.
Interesting.
Which is interesting. So one thing I thought it'd be fun to do, Andrew, for each of these teams is to choose a Thunder guy. So this is not the best player on the team necessarily. It could be. But is there a player on the Hawks who you would want right now, put him on the Thunder right now, and you think that he would fit in with the team, they would find a role for him, and he could excel?
Yeah. I mean, you could go Buffkin. I'm a Buffkin boy.
Still a Buffkin boy.
However, I think I would take Bogdanovich.
Yeah, I really like Bogdanovich.
Bogdanovich. Yeah,
he's not just a shooter.
No, he would be. Mark would use him really well, and I've actually brought this up I did a podcast recently where I brought him up. The only reason why I wouldn't consider him as like a trade target is like he does basically all the things that Vasilij Micić does,
Yeah.
And we just don't know what that looks like. I think a like really good outcome for Micić is if his game looks a lot like Bogdanovich's game in the NBA. He's the most thundery guy on the Hawks for sure.
Yeah, I mean he's averaged basically 3 assists per game every single season for his career, which is really nice from a shooting guard.
Yeah,
and he's 6'6". That's about what Micić is. He's 220. What's Micić? What does Micić weigh?
I don't know.
Could they be the same?
I don't know his weight. I'd be surprised if he's 220.
He's 200.
Yeah, I was gonna say I stood next to him in Vegas, and he did not.
He's skinny.
He did not seem svelte. So,
okay. Do you go over under on the Hawks 41.5 wins? The last 3 seasons 41, 43, 41. So they've been hovering around this over under. They beat it once. They got a half game below it the 2 other times.
This is tough. It's also the 11-11. It's like puts you just right there. I'm gonna go slightly over for the Hawks. I think just all the Trae Young prior to last season, I think he'd been getting a lot of praise, and now he's thought of as like this some second tier guy or third tier guy, or like somebody that shouldn't even be considered for Team USA, kind of stuff, which may be true, but also Trae Young is a really, really good player, and I think that he's going to have a better season than he did last year, and I think the Hawks will be better. So I'll go slightly over at maybe like 43 wins or something like that, which is not like a ton of wins. That's not some great team, but I think that they could get there.
Yeah, I'm going to go over as well. I just think that you have a floor with Trae Young, and I like Quinn Snyder. The thing that scares me is that as they start shedding some of these vets, they got rid of John Collins, they got rid of the Holiday brothers. You're putting more and more pressure on their youth, whether that's Sadiq Bey or Jalen Johnson coming in and making contribution. AJ Griffin, you need him to be even better than he was last year. Onyeka Okongwu, we still don't know what their plan for him is this season. This team starts getting pretty young going forward. And is that a cause of them taking a step back in a way that they haven't the last 3 years? Maybe. But I'm still going over. Now, I did want to ask you, Andrew, a little crystal ball question. By the end of the season, which of these young players will be thought of as the best prospect? Onyeka Okongwu, Jalen Johnson, AJ Griffin, Kobe Buffkin. By the end of this season.
I think AJ Griffin has a good shot to be that guy.
AJ Griffin.
Yeah. As long as he stays healthy. He shot the ball really well as a catch and shoot guy. I could see him becoming like one of the guys for this team, or like the wing for this team. So I'll say him. Also, they need to trade Capella for it to be a Okongwu.
Yeah.
There's a lot at play here. I don't love the construction of this roster. I think they have a bunch of meh young guys, but I don't know. Maybe
they have a lot of young guys that they haven't been able to fully explore because they've been like pushing, the roster forward by like bringing in guys like Bogdanovic, who I think was, a good pickup, but also like the year they were bringing in like Danilo Gallinari, and
right.
They made a lot of decisions that kind of pushed their young guys to the back burner for a while. And this feels like the season where they're really going to start needing significant contributions from at least a couple of those guys.
Yeah. I would say Buffkin, but I just don't see how he gets the possessions on this team with Trae.
Yeah, with Trae and DeJounte.
And Bogdanovic all being ball handling guards. I don't know. There's some imbalance on the roster in that they have some like decent bigs and some good guards, but like who are the wings necessarily on this team? Like DeAndre Hunter, who's I don't know. I guess Sadiq Bey is considered a wing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of a weird roster.
Next, I've already given my opinion on this team. The Boston Celtics. They won 57 games last year. Their over-under is 54.5. Key additions, Kristaps Porzingis, O'Shea Brissett, and Jordan Walsh. Key subtractions, Marcus Smart and Grant Williams. Do you know... I don't know why I'm asking you this year. There's no way you would know. What is the Celtics record, Andrew, without Marcus Smart since he came into the league?
Oh, wow.
Or how many? What percentage of their games do you think they won?
I don't know. 63%. I don't know.
They went 76 and 61, which is good for 55.5% or a 45 win pace. That's what they did without Marcus Smart. Now, there's obviously a lot of noise there, but I thought that was interesting. I'm taking the under, as I've mentioned. I just think that there's too much variability with this team, especially with Porzingis having the plantar fasciitis. You now have the reports of Malcolm Brogdon not being happy with the team. So who knows how that's going to play out. In addition, winning 55 games, which is what they would have to do, is winning 67% of your games. Yeah. In the last 8 seasons, the Celtics have done that twice. They won 55 games once, and then last year they won 57 games. So even during this amazing stretch for the Celtics, where they've been going to multiple Eastern Conference Finals, it's kind of rare for them to have a 55-win season.
Yeah.
So I'm going under for that reason. I don't know how I would have. I mean, it's tough because you kind of understand why they wanted to make these sort of moves, like getting rid of Marcus Smart and Grant Williams. There was an element to staleness to this team over this last season. So I don't know if I would have felt that much differently if they just kept those guys. Maybe I still go under. But as good as Porzingis was last year, finding out that he has that long-term injury, which apparently it's all going to be fine by the time he gets to training camp, but like already starting off on that note with the plantar fasciitis is giving me the heebie-jeebies, Andrew. I'm already worried.
Yeah, I don't like it. I also just wonder how many guys on the Celtics team would make every NBA roster.
I mean, Porzingis healthy would. Tatum and Brown, obviously.
I think it's Horford, Brogdon, Derek White, Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Robert Williams, and Jason Tatum. So I think is that 7?
And Svi Mykhailiuk.
Yeah, exactly. They have a lot of guys. They have a lot of guys that just wouldn't. Like, we don't know what Jordan Walsh is going to be as a rookie. It's whatever. J.D. Davidson, Jay Scrubber, they're two ways, and so is Neemias Queta. But they signed Delano Banton. Peyton Pritchard, I don't think would make every roster. Sam Hauser wouldn't make every roster. Taylor Funk wouldn't make every roster. Svi wouldn't. Luke Cornett wouldn't. They just have a lot of guys that are just fringe NBA players on their roster too.
And they're likely going to need. They're likely going to need some of those guys because
they're going to play some of them because that's 7 guys, and somebody's going to be hurt, and they're going to have to play Luke Cornett in spots. I don't know. They're pretty shallow with NBA level talent, with like high level NBA talent. So I'm taking under 2 just because of the injury risk here. Like if Brogdon and Porzingis both miss significant time, one and Robert Williams, those 3, if they miss significant time, no one would be surprised. And the replacement guys on that team, if you took 3 out of there, then you have 4 guys that are for sure NBA level talents.
And Peyton Pritchard is already probably going to have to play minutes because Marcus Smart is gone. But like Malcolm Brogdon, he played 67 games last year. That's the most games he has played since his rookie season.
Yeah.
When he played 75.
And he's mad.
And he's mad. He's starting off mad. And there's talking about how he could delay his surgery or not get surgery on whatever's wrong with him right now. As a kind of FU to the team.
Yeah, it's a total Shaq move. It's he's going to rehab on company time kind of thing.
Yeah, so all that scares me, which is why I'm going under just because it's a super high over under. Like I said, they need to win 55 games.
Yeah, on a positive note, I think Jason Tatum could be the best player in the NBA in the next couple of years.
Well, I was going to ask you my crystal ball question. How many players will finish ahead of Tatum for the MVP?
I think that it could be only like 2 or 3. And
right now he's 4th best odds.
Yeah.
Behind Jokic, Giannis, and Luka.
Yeah. Although he did just get this really weird tattoo that includes the character Dash from The Incredibles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which makes me actually downgrade this. I'm going way.
Oh, the little boy.
Yeah. It's a questionable decision. So actually, I'm going like 15 players that'll be ahead of him for the MVP. And
what? Okay, if you could get, if you were forced to get a character from a Pixar movie tattooed on you, or let's just say an NBA player had to do this, which would make you feel best about them? Obviously, Dash doesn't make you feel good.
No, it's It's a weird pick.
What about Wally?
Wally might be the only one where it's more like symbolic.
Yeah.
Like I don't like the way the direction of our world or whatever.
It's like a political statement.
Technology is evil. Like Wally is probably the only acceptable one because it's like, yeah, sure.
What if it's fullback Wally?
Fullback Wally is actually awesome.
Neck to butt Wally.
Neck to butt Wally, front and back.
That's the only instruction you give to the tattoo artist. I want neck to butt Wally.
Yeah, no, that would be the only one. I'm trying to think of any other, like any sort of like Toy Story would just feel.
That would be weird. That feels creepy.
Yeah,
I mean Ratatouille. You could do Remy.
Uh,
I don't know if people around you would want, like, if you had a significant other, they would want you to have a rat tattooed on you.
yeah. Maybe you got a bald head and you have it tattooed on top of your head.
Oh, that's actually pretty
He's
cool.
like controlling you,
I might actually do that.
controlling your basketball game. I don't know. I like Ratatouille is a great movie, by the way. But yeah, I don't think there's anybody outside of Wally that I would accept and would say that it makes you a more complete MVP candidate. But I do think choosing Dash makes you. I think the Celtics will never win a title with Jason Tatum as their best player because of that.
So he needs to get that tattoo removed.
Get the
sounds like.
tattoo removed. You're back on the championship train.
Oh, I might get the little ant from A Bug's Life. I always liked him.
No,
No?
absolutely not.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's very few, like, I don't know. We got to move on, I think.
Maybe the house from Up. Okay, number 3, Brooklyn. Last year they won 45 games. Over under is 37.5. Post All-Star break, when it was just their new guys, they were the 24th ranked offense, 13th ranked defense. They've added Dennis Smith Jr., Noah Clowney, Lonnie Walker IV, and Derek Whitehead. They've lost Seth Curry, Yuta Watanabe, Joe Harris, Patty Mills. They lost 4 NBA rotation players.
Yeah.
Their record with Mikal Bridges last year, 27 games. They were 12-15, which is a 36-win pace. So you can kind of understand where the over-under came from. First of all, Thunder guy for the Celtics, Andrew. Who's the Thunder guy? Who's the guy we want?
Oh, interesting.
Maybe Derek White.
Yeah, definitely Derek White. I wish Derek White was drafted by the Thunder in 2017. That was McKellar's guy. So yeah, definitely Derek White.
And obviously Jason Tatum would fit as well. We'd find a place for Jason
If he removed
Tatum.
the tattoo, then we would accept it. Yes.
Okay, Brooklyn Thunder guy. I mean, Mikal is an easy. This is one instance where I do think like the best player on the team is a pretty seamless fit. I think Mikal could come right in and play for the Thunder and be great.
Easily. Yeah.
Is there anyone else though on this team? They have Darius Baisley.
They did.
Cam Johnson.
We've been down that road before.
Yeah.
Dorian Finney-Smith.
Yeah.
He's not really a Thunder guy, but he could play anywhere kind of thing.
Okay, Brooklyn. The only thing that scares me about going under on Brooklyn, which I am going to go under on Brooklyn, is that they do have all the pieces to make a trade. They absolutely have all the pieces.
Oh, you know who? Royce O'Neal is more of a Thunder guy than DFS, for sure.
Royce O'Neal, yes, okay. They have all those picks. They have all the Suns picks, which are very juicy picks, juicier than anything like Miami can give.
Yeah,
and there is a part of me that wonders how quickly they eventually get into the Dame conversations.
Yeah,
I was looking at the early season schedule, and it's not easy. And I'm just wondering if they falter a little bit, are they going to be okay with that? Or are they going to get panicky and want to make a big move, which they have the pieces to do.
Mm-hmm.
All that said, I am going to go under on the Brooklyn Nets. I just don't think this was a very good team. They were boosted by all the time that KD and Kyrie spent there in terms of their overall record. It was deceiving. They were not that great. They were a below 500 team with those new guys, and they lost 4 rotation players.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they picked up Dennis Smith Jr. I don't know why Charlotte let him go.
Yeah,
but
Lonnie Walker,
the rest of fine. But the rest of their lineup is just very uninspiring for me, and that's before even getting to like Ben Simmons. I'm kind of discounting him completely right now.
What percentage of you believes in Ben Simmons as a guy that's playing big minutes for this team?
Big minutes? I mean, he could play big minutes and they could be terrible. So I could still see him coming back and playing minutes. Him being like decent again, like maybe not Philly Ben Simmons, but just like a solid player. I'm like at 9% confidence.
Yeah, he has 8 nicknames on Basketball Reference. Can you name any of them?
Doesn't he also have the Wizard of Oz nickname?
Wizard of Oz, yeah. Oz, yeah.
That's cool. He has a really dumb one.
He's got lots of really dumb ones.
Yeah, you'll have to tell me them.
Simo the Savage.
Yeah, Simo the Savage, terrible.
Young.
I mean, for like a guy who presents himself as super confident, Simo the Savage would probably be a perfectly good nickname. Paired with this Ben Simmons,
Yeah.
just doesn't fit.
Young guy with back problems that's afraid of taking free throws. Not really.
Simo the Savage. I don't know.
Young socialite.
Yeah, that's the one I remembered. Young socialite.
So bad.
So lame.
Fresh Prince.
Not cool at all. Young socialite. Fresh Prince. Okay.
This is a weird one. Peacemaker.
Peacemaker. That seems contradictory.
Yeah,
based on how his career has gone.
I know. Maybe it's ironic. Benny.
Okay, that's the most solid one so far. That's the one that fits him the best right now. I would be perfectly fine calling him Benny.
The Yank.
The Yank. That's stupid.
And Big Ben.
What's the significance of the Yank?
I don't know.
That must have been added after he went to Brooklyn. Because
Yank?
Why would you call him the Yank?
Why would you call him the Yank if he plays for Brooklyn for like a year?
Well, I was thinking like the Yankees, but I don't know.
I know. That's the only reason.
Yeah, those are some bad ones.
I don't.
Simo the Savage. Watch out.
Watch out.
Okay.
Peacemaker coming in.
Peacemaker. That's very threatening nickname.
Watch out for the Peacemaker.
I'm going under on Brooklyn. What are you doing?
What's their number again?
37.5. They have to win 38 games, which isn't that much. It'd be 38 and 42.
Oh, I will say over. I think they have enough NBA guys and enough defense where I think that they can figure it out. I don't know that I believe in the coaching all that much, but I think if they keep this team together, I think they can get over 38 wins. And especially since they have the trade in their back pocket that they could make, I'll go ahead and say over.
Next, Charlotte. Last year, they won 27 games, even though they were garbage, which is kind of impressive. Over under this year, 30 and a half. Post All-Star break, worst offense in the league, 7th ranked defense. However, they no longer have Dennis Smith Jr. or Kelly Oubre Jr., but they have replaced him with another junior, Nick Smith Jr., Frank Ntilikina, Miles Bridges, who is coming back. I guess it is a key addition. He wasn't there last year.
That's true.
And Brandon Miller. I would love to go under on this team just because I don't want to think about them at all this entire season. Honestly, I like LaMelo. I think PJ Washington's a solid player. I really don't care about the rest of their roster. I have very little interest in anyone else on the roster, including Brandon Miller, who I just wasn't a huge fan of in the draft process.
Yeah. He gets defensively from the get-go because he's really skinny.
If they had any other coach than Steve Clifford, I think this would be an easy under for me.
Yeah.
But knowing Steve Clifford, he's going to play all their vets.
Yeah.
He's going to play Frank Ntilikina. He someone like Nick Smith Jr., I mean, who knows if he even gets minutes.
He might quietly murder Kai Jones.
Quietly. Yeah, Kai Jones still on this team. James Bouknight's still on this team. So I'm actually going to go a slight over, even though it absolutely feels disgusting. They should be one of the worst teams.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of these young guys just aren't going to play because they're not good.
I'm going under.
Okay.
They have a guy named Angelo Allegri, who I've never heard of.
Yeah, they have a couple guys I've never really heard of.
Leaky Black, who I think we
talked about Leaky Black.
Yeah, that's a Harry Potter character. That's not a basketball player.
Andrew, I tell you that one of Nick Smith Jr., Amari Bailey, JT Thor, Kai Jones, Bryce McGowan's, or James Bouknight, I just named 6 young players. One of those guys has a great season and becomes thought of as one of Charlotte's best young prospects. Who do you think it was?
I'm kind of a McGowan's guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's a 6'7" wing that I think he's got a little bit of juice off the bounce. I also met his aunt at Summer League.
Oh, are you being influenced? Do you have aunt bias?
I got a little bit of aunt bias because we were on the concourse of the arena doing trivia, and she agreed to do it. And she was wearing a Bryce McGowan's Charlotte jersey. and I just was exasperated with this lady. Just like, why are you wearing a Bryce McGowan's jersey? Like, please tell me the story. Like, what's going on here? And she was like, well, that's my nephew. And I was like, well, that's the best explanation ever for wearing a Bryce McGowan's jersey.
Because in parentheses, he's not very good. Why would you be wearing one?
Why would anybody buy a Bryce McGowan's jersey? But yeah, I actually do kind of like him. The other guy is, I mean, James Bouknight, I'm totally out on. Kai Jones, totally out on. JT Thor, out, gone, out. Amari Bailey is a whatever two-way player. Who's the other guy you said? Nick Smith Jr. I think Nick Smith Jr. is the worst player selected in the first round.
James Bouknight, the NBA I saw, tweeted him a happy birthday message. Do you think that's the last happy birthday message he gets from the NBA.com account?
Probably. I just don't. I think when you pair attitude and all the bad things you hear about him, plus the fact that he has just been an atrocious NBA player, I don't think anybody does. I mean,
surprised he's made it this far, honestly.
I mean, congratulations that you haven't been cut to this point, James Bouknight.
Congratulations for being drafted by Charlotte. Probably the best thing for his career, because if he was going to be this bad, he might have not lasted this long on a lot of other teams.
Yeah. I mean, and also shout out to Sam Presti for not drafting him whenever all of NBA Twitter, all of Thunder
wanted us to, or told us we were going to.
Wanted James Bouknight. Yeah. Great job.
Okay. Chicago. Last year they won 40 games. This year they're over under 37.5. Overall for the season, they had the 5th ranked defense. And post All-Star break, they had the 3rd ranked defense. To bolster that defense, they've added Javon Carter. They lost Patrick Beverly, but that's about it. Oh gosh, we didn't choose a Thunder guy from the Hornets.
Nope. I mean, if Gordon Hayward was healthy, he's a Thunder guy.
Yeah, and he played 50 games last year or so.
Yeah,
and he's to the point in his career where he could come off the bench and it wouldn't be a huge deal.
Yep. He's expiring 23-24, 31.5 million.
Wow. You trying to cook up a Bertans deal?
I'm trying to cook up a Bertans deal.
So you can get Leaky Black on the Thunder?
Can we? If you throw in Leaky Black, we'll do it. And a Cauldron.
So we'll take Gordon Hayward there. Chicago. So they really haven't made. I mentioned that they added John Carter as like a Patrick Beverly replacement, I guess.
Sure.
And to bolster their defense, which their defense continues to be really good. This is a tough one for me personally because you're very tempted to go under, but they basically had the exact same team that won 40 games last year. One thing I will say is that all of Vooch, Patrick Williams, Ayo, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Kobe White, okay, so that's basically their top 6 guys other than Lonzo. All of those guys missed fewer than 10 games last season. They were incredibly healthy. Even someone like Alex Caruso, who did have some injury issues, he still played 67 games. So that season, which was not great for the Bulls, they only won 40 games. They actually got really good health that entire year from their players, which kind of scares me.
Yeah, that scares me too. You want to play a quick Chicago Bulls themed game?
Yeah.
Which one of these names am I making up? Henry Drell, Maxwell Heidegger, Quentin Jackson, or Anurlap Bitim?
I'll say I know that the second name you said is a real person because I remember seeing his name. So it's first or third for me. I will go with the third. I'll say Quentin Jackson.
They're actually all real. None of them are made up. They're all real people.
It's a trick question.
They're all real people that are on this team that I have, frankly, never heard of. And it's my job to know who NBA players are. So there we go.
Yeah, Maxwell Heidegger. I've never heard of that guy in my life. He's a rookie, and he was born in 1997, which means he is 26 years old, I believe. Yes, he is 26 years old. He's a 26-year-old. He's a 26-year-old, 6'3", 180-pound rookie. What? What?
He went to UC Santa Barbara. Yeah, there's some names for you. Everybody else I think I've heard of that's on this roster, but
Henry Drell. How old is he?
Drell.
He's already 23. He's from Estonia.
Yeah.
He's 6'9", 187 pounds. So he's 6 inches taller than Maxwell, but he only weighs 7 pounds more.
7 pounds more.
Yeah, some interesting guys on their team.
Drell.
Yeah, I was going to say over, but I have to take under on someone, so I'm going to go under on the Bulls.
Tell me their number again?
37.5. Again, not that much.
Yeah. So there's a story coming out on The Athletic about oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name right now?
Henry Drell?
About Maxwell Heidegger? No, about DeMar DeRozan. Sorry. About him shooting more threes this year.
Really?
Mm-hmm. About him wanting to evolve his game as he gets
Good
older.
Lord. Yeah, please.
And one thing that he can do is shoot threes, kind of. And I don't think he mentioned this, but it reminds me a little bit of like Vince Carter as he evolved his game as he got older. And so if he actually does that, if DeRozan actually just starts shooting more threes, I would be actually pretty excited about this team because if he shoots and makes threes, I think it changes a lot for this team. So yeah, he's going into year 15.
I know good for him to finally decide that.
That's pretty wild. I will also
super cool a few years ago.
I will also take the under. I think a top 5 defense was a bit fluky for this group, and I know a lot of it is like Billy Donovan's a really, really good defensive coach, but I also just hate this roster. I just don't think this roster is any good. And
there's so many teams in the East that I have so little interest in following them this year. We just did 2 in a row with Charlotte and Chicago. Just like no interest.
Yeah, this is who the Thunder play on night 1.
Great. I'm not tuning in.
The only thing that's exciting is like, hey, we could beat Billy Donovan's team.
Yeah, that'd be so fun. I just think about Billy Donovan all summer. Got to get our revenge. Hey, if I told you Patrick Williams over under was 13.5 points per game, what would you take?
He is such a weird player because he shot the ball really well last year, but he only scored 10 points a game.
Yeah.
It needs to be over, but I'll say under.
Okay. And who's our Thunder guy from the Bulls?
Oh boy. Should it be Alex Caruso? Little throwback.
Oh, get him back, yeah.
It actually probably is him or a healthy Lonzo Ball.
Oh, a healthy Lonzo would be incredible.
Yeah, healthy Lonzo is the answer, but it's also not a real thing. It's an oxymoron. So
I don't know. Caruso. I don't know if I mentioned it, but somebody pointed out to me on Twitter like a month ago that Alex Caruso should have been on Guys Who Got Away episode. He absolutely should, because he actually did sign a contract with the Thunder.
Yeah,
as part of playing for the Blue. So he would probably been high on that list.
Yeah, definitely. He should have played for the Thunder. Yeah, for sure. They could have used him big time. Instead, he went to the Lakers.
All right, next is Cleveland. Last year, they won 51 games. You just have to pick them to do the same this year. Over-under is 50.5. Post All-Star break, actually overall for the season, 7th-ranked offense, 1st-ranked defense. Post All-Star break, they were 13th and 4th in those. Key additions, they had some pretty significant ones. Max Strus, George Niang, Ty Jerome, our guy, Monty Bates, and Tristan Thompson is back in the league. Tristan Thompson. Key subtractions, Chetty Osman. Here's a fun crystal ball question, Andrew. Rank these 3 players in points per game for the upcoming season. Evan Mobley, last year scored 16.2. Scotty Barnes, last year scored 15.3. Josh Giddey, last year scored 16.6. How would you rank those guys for the upcoming season, just in points per game?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think Scotty, number 1, just because he's going to have more opportunity than everybody else. And then I'll go Giddey Mobley.
Okay. So I'm going to save my real take for the bold predictions, but the more I've looked into this, I'm very high on Cleveland this year.
Yeah.
So I'm taking their over.
Yeah.
Last year, their 7 through 10 was Chetty Osman, Lamar Stevens, who's currently out of the league,
Yep.
Dean Wade, and Kevin Love. They've replaced a couple of those guys with Max Strus and George Niang, who are NBA rotation players
And great shooters.
and great shooters, which is something you need when you're going to be playing Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen together a lot of
Yeah,
nights. So I'm feeling much better about them than I would have.
Yes, Strus is not a great shooter. Is probably a stretch for Strus, but
he had a down year last year. I think he shot like 35%.
Yeah.
But in general, he is a shooter.
Yeah.
So I am taking the over. I'll stop there. I'll say no more. But I am taking the over with the Cavaliers.
Yeah, it's an easy over. I mean, they were really good last year. They essentially just brought in players that are better fitting for them, and they should just get better. And a year, Evan Mobley is a year older. That helps quite a bit. Darius Garland, who is still, what is he, 23, 24? I mean, we forget how young he is just because we feel like we've heard his name a lot. But he's going to get better too. And I don't see any reason why they shouldn't. They could be the 1 seed in the East. Very
talking about DG the PG?
I'm talking about DG the PG. Yeah, I think they could definitely be the number 1 seed. When you think about all the turmoil all the other teams in the East are going through with Philadelphia, you have all the turnover and injury risks in Boston. The Miami Heat are never a great regular season team anyways. I mean, who else is it at this point that we think is going to be the number 1 seed? I would pick Cleveland, and I don't hesitate with that at all.
Well,
And
I have to adjust one of my bold predictions now since you just said it, and it sounds like it's not very bold to you. So scrap that one.
I mean, you're talking about
no
one of the best defenses in the league and
whatever,
one of the best rosters in the league too. They're very under the radar, I would say.
Okay, this will probably be our last one. Maybe we'll do the other half of these with our plan for next week's show. We can also do bold predictions.
Okay,
probably have time to do that. Detroit, we've already talked about them. Last year they won 17 games. Their over/under is 28.5.
We have a Thunder guy on the Cavs.
Oh, Thunder guy on the Cavs. I mean, Evan Mobley is. I think he counts.
That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah. That would be pretty cool.
Also, Imani Bates on this team too, which is weird and fun. Imani Bates,
really?
Yeah.
We could bring back Ricky Rubio.
Yeah, bring him back.
Who else?
Bring back
I know Ty Jerome fits, so we can also get him.
Yeah.
Okay. Detroit. They added Asar Thompson, Marcus Sasser, Joe Harris, Monty Morris. They subtracted Corey Joseph. First question: assuming health, who plays more minutes this year, James Wiseman or Marvin Bagley? Who you got? Bagley or Wiseman?
That's really gross. I think I'll go Bagley.
Bagley, you've always been a Bagley guy.
I'm in the
You said you wanted him over Luka. You would take him number 1. You said back then.
Did I say that?
Yep, you loved him.
Did I really?
Yeah, all the time. You wouldn't shut up about him. We were like, shut up. He's not good.
I don't know if I remember that.
You were like, he's the next Luka. We were like, why don't you just draft Luka then? Okay. So they were terrible last year.
Really bad.
Obviously, Kate Cunningham wasn't there.
Yeah.
They did, to their credit, make some very affordable moves to bring in some NBA vets with Joe Harris and Monty Morris.
Yeah.
Joe Harris, who I thought was injured all of last season, he actually played a majority of the Nets games. So he was healthy. I don't know how good he was. I mean, he still is shooting 40% from 3, but clearly not good enough for them to keep him, and they kind of gave him away for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So they did bring in those 2 guys, which I think is a good thing.
A lot. Yeah.
I like Asar Thompson. I don't know how seamless that fit is going to be in the starting lineup, depending on how many shooters you can get out there. I mean, if you have Jalen Duren You have Jaden Ivey, who's questionable shooter. You have Asar Thompson. You know, you're going to have Bogdanovic, which is good. And then we'll see. I mean, Cade has to start shooting it well at some point in his career.
Yeah.
I can't do it. Somebody has to be bad. And like, other than Charlotte and Washington, like, I just don't know who that team who I'm supposed to pick. So I'm going to take the under on Detroit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They're really, really young. And that makes it tough.
Are, according to Hispanos.com, hold on, let me double check this. I never want to get this wrong. Because they spend so much time
Shout out
getting
to the Hispanos NBA.
all their stuff correct.
Yep.
So the by the way, I did learn that the Thunder are still the second youngest team, according to them.
Yeah.
Yes, the Pistons are number one. 23.3 is their average age. OKC is 23.8. Portland 23.9. So that gives you an idea of who's at the bottom. Youngest team in the league. You can be really high on Cade and still think it's asking a lot for them to win basically 12 games more than they won last year to hit this. I mean, that is a big jump. They could do it, I suppose. It's only 29 wins, but they're starting out from 17. And part of that is because just the roster wasn't very good last year beyond Cade. So yeah, I'm still going under on Detroit.
Yeah, I like the way that Jaden Ivey played at the end of the season. I don't necessarily believe in how young players play at the end of the season translating directly. I don't think that always does. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, especially on teams that are going nowhere. I need to see it with him in a more competitive environment. Jalen Duren is still the youngest player on this team, and they're going to use him a lot. And he's going to be the anchor of their defense. And I think he's not going to be very good. Asar Thompson can't shoot. And I think that he does a lot of really cool stuff. I just don't think he meshes well with Ivy and Cade yet. And they're going to want to play them a lot together. I think those four guys, Cade, Ivy, Asar, Jalen Duren, are like that's their core. And then you look at the players, the other young players that they have. Like Beef Stew is not a great fit with them because I don't believe in his shot. James Wiseman is James Wiseman. And then like that's basically it with guys that you're developing. And so you're counting a lot on William Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, Joe Harris, Monte Morris to kind of buoy this team. And like those are good players, but those are complementary players. Those aren't ceiling raisers. So yeah, I'll go under.
Okay, how about for our last one? I'm just going to skip ahead because we already talked about them, so they'll be out of the way. The New York Knicks, over under 44.5. As me and Andrew already talked about, they were our number one over under lock.
Yeah.
For over 44.5. We love the Knicks this year. They added Dante DiVincenzo. They lost Obi Toppin. They have all the Villanova guys. Jalen Brunson looked good at times this summer, but we like him in general.
Good to underwhelming this summer.
Good to underwhelming, but still was the starting point guard for Team USA. That was something. I feel very comfortable about this one. They won 47 games last year, so we'll end on that since we already agree on that.
Yeah, it's not a lot of wins. I think they can get there. I think defensively they're gonna be there. They've got a lot of tryhards, so. Yeah, I like them. Did we say a Thunder player from the Pistons?
Oh, yeah. Thunder player from the Pistons. I mean, once again, Bogdanovic. The other Bogdanovic would also be good.
He's too much of a chucker for me.
You think he's too much of a chucker? Okay.
Yeah.
How about...
I think Asar Thompson is a Thunder guy. I've kind of always
Asar
thought
Thompson
that.
is.
And then for the Knicks?
The Knicks. Let me take a look at the Knicks.
Isaiah Roby.
We've seen him do it. He's proven it.
DiVincenzo is a Thunder guy. A little bit of everything. He could fit right in. Or Josh Hart. Either one.
Yeah. I was thinking Josh Hart. Especially with his streaky shooting. He would fit right in.
It'd be great. Yeah. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. So we'll do the other half of these for next week's show.
Yep.
that we're
And then-
recording this week.
Yep. And we will have bold predictions coming at you for next week as well, in preparation for Thunder Media Day. We also have a Thunder watch party that we're going to announce soon. That will be the first night of the Thunder season, which will be a Wednesday. I think it's the 25th against the Chicago Bulls here locally in Oklahoma City. So prepare yourselves for that as well.
A watch party, like in person, or I mean, at the arena, or just a watch party
A
at
down
a
to dunk
place?
watch party.
But not the in arena thing.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, not in the arena.
Okay.
All right. Hope you guys have an awesome day, and we will talk to you guys again on Friday.
Bye.
Bye.